In the quiet corridors of Copenhagen, a political storm is brewing, set to culminate on March 24, 2026. This isn't just any election. It's a referendum on leadership, sovereignty, and Denmark's very place in a rapidly changing world. At the center of it all is Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, a leader whose international acclaim stands in stark contrast to a growing tide of domestic unease. And the key to understanding this complex political drama lies thousands of miles away, in the icy expanse of Greenland. Let's rewind to a moment that sent shockwaves through the diplomatic world. When the United States administration proposed buying Greenland, it wasn't just a quirky headline. It was a direct challenge to centuries of Danish history and identity. Mette Frederiksen's response was swift and unequivocal. She called the idea absurd, a firm rejection that resonated not just in Denmark, but across the globe. By standing up to a superpower, she didn't just defend a territory, she defended the principle of sovereignty and cemented her image as a strong, decisive leader on the world stage. To understand why this moment was so pivotal, we need to grasp Greenland's significance. It's not merely a distant, icy outpost. Greenland is an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, a crucial part of its national identity and geopolitical strategy. For centuries, the bond between Denmark and Greenland has been complex, evolving from colonialism to a modern partnership. More importantly, Greenland's strategic location in the Arctic makes it a hotspot in the new Great Game for global influence. With melting ice opening new shipping routes and access to vast natural resources, powers like the U.S., Russia, and China are all vying for a foothold. Greenland is the gateway to the Arctic, and for Denmark, holding onto it is non-negotiable. Frederiksen's firm stance on Greenland was the first in a series of international tests she would face. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic. Her government implemented some of Europe's strictest lockdown measures. While controversial, this decisive action was initially praised for its effectiveness in controlling the virus's spread. She was seen as a leader who wasn't afraid to make tough calls for the public good. Following the pandemic, the war in Ukraine presented another crisis. Again, Frederiksen positioned Denmark as a staunch ally, providing significant military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine and reinforcing Denmark's commitment to NATO and European security. On the international stage, her reputation soared. She was seen as a stateswoman, a crisis manager, a defender of the liberal international order. This carefully cultivated image of strength is now the cornerstone of her campaign. Calling an election for March 2026 is a calculated move. It allows her to ride this wave of international approval, framing the vote as a choice for stable, respected leadership in uncertain times. The message is clear. In a dangerous world, Denmark needs a proven leader. However, if you turn your attention from the world stage to the streets of Aarhus, Odense, or Copenhagen, you hear a very different story. While the Prime Minister was earning accolades abroad, many Danes were feeling the pinch at home. The cost of living has skyrocketed. Families are struggling with soaring energy bills, rising grocery prices, and a housing market that feels increasingly out of reach. There is a growing sentiment that the government's focus on global affairs has come at the expense of everyday domestic problems. This dissatisfaction runs deep, particularly concerning Denmark's famed welfare state. For generations, Danes have prided themselves on a system that promises cradle-to-grave security. But cracks are beginning to show. Hospitals are facing staff shortages and long waiting lists. The quality of elderly care is a constant source of public debate. Parents worry about overcrowded classrooms and underfunded schools. The opposition parties have seized on this narrative. They accuse Frederiksen of neglecting the very system that defines Danish society. They paint a picture of a leader more interested in photo ops with world leaders than in the struggles of ordinary citizens. Their message is simple and powerful. What good is a strong reputation abroad if things are falling apart at home? This clash between international prestige and domestic discontent is the central battleground of the upcoming election. So, where do the voters stand? Polling data paints a picture of a nation deeply divided. Frederiksen's Social Democrats still hold a significant base, particularly among voters who prioritize experienced leadership and national security. Her supporters see her as a steady hand in turbulent times, a leader who has successfully navigated Denmark through multiple global crises. They believe her international standing directly benefits Denmark, giving it a stronger voice in Europe and beyond. They argue that in an interconnected world, foreign policy is domestic policy. On the other side, a coalition of opposition parties from the right and the left is gaining momentum. They're tapping into the widespread frustration over domestic issues. Polls show that voters' top concerns are healthcare, the economy, and the cost of living areas where the government is perceived as vulnerable. The opposition's strategy is to constantly redirect the conversation back to these kitchen table issues. arguing that the government has lost touch with the needs of its people. The election is shaping up to be a nail-biter. The outcome could hinge on a small margin of swing voters, who are torn between Frederiksen's proven leadership on the world stage and the opposition's promise to fix problems at home. It's a classic heart versus head dilemma for the Danish electorate. As the election on March 24, 2026 approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. The outcome will have profound consequences that extend far beyond Denmark's borders. If Mette Frederiksen and her Social Democrats secure another term, it would be a validation of her leadership style as strong, centralized approach that prioritizes international engagement. We could expect Denmark to continue its active role in NATO, its strong support for Ukraine, and its assertive stance on Arctic sovereignty. This would signal continuity and stability to Denmark's allies, reinforcing its position as a reliable partner in European and transatlantic security. It would mean that, for now, voters have prioritized global stability over domestic grievances. However, if the opposition coalition manages to win, it could herald a significant shift. While the new government would likely maintain Denmark's core foreign policy commitments, its primary focus would shift inward. We could see a major push for increased spending on welfare, healthcare, and education, potentially funded by scaling back on certain international initiatives or defense spending. This pivot would reflect a popular demand to mend the social fabric at home before projecting power abroad. A change in government could also alter the dynamics of European politics. A new Danish leader might bring a different perspective to the table in Brussels, potentially affecting EU policies on everything from climate change to fiscal rules. And then there's the Arctic. A new government might adopt a different tone, if not substance, in its dealings with superpowers over Greenland. While Danish sovereignty would remain paramount, the diplomatic approach could change, impacting the delicate balance of power in a region of growing strategic importance. The world will be watching to see how a new leadership in Copenhagen navigates these icy geopolitical waters. Ultimately, the Danish election of 2026 is more than just a political contest. It's a national conversation about identity, priorities, and the future. It forces Danes to ask themselves a fundamental question. In a world of cascading crises, what is the true measure of a leader? Is it the respect they command in the halls of international power, or the security and well-being they provide for their citizens at home? As voters head to the polls, their answer will not only determine the next chapter for Denmark, but will also echo across Europe and the strategic landscapes of the High North. The choice they make will define what it means to be Danish in the 21st century. Thanks for watching, and if you found this analysis insightful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into global politics.